All right, let's jump straight into this explainer. If you've been searching for a complete, no-nonsense summary of Robert Kiyosaki's legendary book to level up your own financial journey, well, you're in exactly the right place. We're going to completely unlearn some deeply ingrained, frankly outdated dogmas we've all been taught about money.
So think about this for a second. What do the rich teach their kids about money that the poor and middle class just don't? It's a pretty provocative question, right? I mean, why is it that highly educated people, we're talking doctors, bankers, brilliant academics, why do they so often struggle financially while someone who, say, dropped out of middle school goes on to build a massive financial empire? Ultimately, it all comes down to what is taught around the kitchen table versus what's taught in a classroom.
Here's the exact roadmap we'll use today to break down the most critical, actionable lessons from the book. We'll look at the tale of two dads, escaping the rat race, assets versus liabilities, minding your own business, the power of corporations, and finally, inventing your wealth. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Tale of Two Dads, the Paradigm Shift. Our source introduces us to two incredibly hardworking fathers. Now, one was highly educated but constantly struggling financially. He'd frequently just say, "I can't afford it." The other father, an 8th grade dropout who actually built an empire, absolutely forbade those words. Instead, he insisted on asking, "How can I afford it?" It seems like a tiny linguistic shift, but here's the thing. Saying "I can't afford it" is a statement that literally breeds mental laziness. It just lets you off the hook. But asking how, that actually exercises your brain, which is the most powerful computer in the world, and forces it to hunt for solutions.
And that leads us to our first major takeaway. The author tells the story of being a 9-year-old kid working for his rich dad, dusting canned goods for a measly 10 cents an hour. It was super frustrating, but it was actually a deliberate metaphor. Rich dad was giving him a tiny taste of adult wage slavery. Look, if you spend your entire life angry at your boss, just sitting around hoping for a raise, you're totally missing the point. The rich flip the script entirely. They don't work for money, they figure out how to make their money work for them.
Section 2. Escaping the rat race, the trap of fear and greed.
Let's walk through this cyclical trap, which the book famously calls the rat race. People feel this very real fear of not having enough money, so they rush off to work. They get a paycheck, and suddenly desire, or let's call it greed, takes over. They see a shiny new car, a bigger house, the latest gadgets, so they spend the money, and the very next morning they wake up with that exact same fear all over again. It's literally like a donkey endlessly chasing a carrot dangling from a stick. They're just reacting to their emotions instead of logically using their heads to break the cycle.
Section 3. Assets versus liabilities, the foundation of wealth.
You know, there's a reason we constantly hear wild stories of lottery winners or highly paid pro athletes who end up flat broke just a few years later. Why does that happen? Because money without financial intelligence is money that's soon gone. If you want to build an empire, you absolutely have to dig a deep foundation of financial literacy first. It's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep.
So, here is the keep it super simple principle that completely separates the wealthy from the struggling middle class. An asset is simply something that puts money in your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. That's literally it. You do not need a degree in accounting to grasp this. If you want to be rich, spend your life buying assets.
Now, this simple rule challenges what is probably the ultimate middle-class dogma, the house. We're always told, your home is your biggest asset and investment. But the rich dad reality? It says the exact opposite. If your house incurs high property taxes, requires a 30-year mortgage, demands expensive maintenance, and ties up all your capital so you can't invest in income-generating opportunities, well, it is taking money out of your pocket. In terms of strict cash flow, your house is a liability.
Section 4. Mind your own business, building the asset column.
When folks fill out bank loan applications, they often falsely list their personal residence, a brand new car that literally just lost 25% of its value driving off the lot, or expensive golf clubs as assets. But real assets? Those are things like businesses you own but don't have to physically run every day. Or stocks, bonds, income-generating real estate, and royalties from intellectual property. These are the heavy lifters that actually work for you 24 hours a day.
So the absolutely crucial point here is this. The rich buy luxuries last. The poor and middle class, they tend to buy them first, usually on credit, burying themselves in debt just to look wealthy. True wealth builders, on the other hand, build up their real assets first. Then, and only then, do they use the cash flow generated by those assets to buy their luxuries. The asset pays for the reward, not your sweat and blood.
Section 5. The power of corporations, the biggest secret of the rich.
Okay, to really understand this secret, we actually need a super quick history lesson. Originally, there were no permanent income taxes in the US or England. When taxes were finally made permanent back in 1874 and 1913, they were actually sold to the masses as this sort of Robin Hood tax, a way to punish only the ultra-rich. And so, the masses voted it in. But as the government's appetite for money naturally grew, the tax net expanded. Eventually, it trickled all the way down to heavily burden the very middle class who originally voted for it in the first place.
But the rich didn't just sit there and take it. They outsmarted the system using the legal structure of a corporation. Here's how it works. An employee earns money, gets taxed on it immediately, and tries to survive on whatever's left. But a corporation? A corporation earns money, spends everything it possibly can on pre-tax expenses, and is only taxed on whatever is left over. It is a massive, and I mean massive, legal advantage.
To utilize these kinds of tools, you need what the book calls financial IQ. It's basically a synergy of 4 pillars. First, accounting, so you can actually read the numbers. Second, investing, which is the creative science of money making money. Third, understanding markets, meaning the logic of supply and demand. And fourth, the law, which means utilizing corporate tax advantages and protecting yourself from lawsuits. If you lack these 4 pillars, the world, and especially the taxman, will simply push you around.
Section 6. Inventing your wealth. Overcoming fear and self-doubt.
Inside every single one of us, there's a brave, brilliant character, but there's also a very fearful one. The author points out that excessive fear and self-doubt are the absolute greatest suppressors of financial genius. Seriously, you could be the smartest person in the room with the absolute best grades, but if you lack the boldness to act on your knowledge, you're gonna stay stuck working for someone else's dream. Often in the real world, it's not the smart who get ahead, but the bold.
We are living in the information age. Clinging to the safety of a secure job or the old ways of doing things is actually the riskiest move you can make today. While an old idea might have been a great asset yesterday, today, resisting change is your biggest liability. The wealth of the future belongs to those who adapt and invent.
So I want you to take a moment and just reflect on your own life. Are your daily efforts just pouring money into the liabilities column, effectively making the bank and the government richer? Or are you actively building a foundation of true assets? Are you working for your money, or is your money working for you?
To completely summarize how you escape the rat race, it requires a massive mindset shift away from mental laziness. It demands the bold courage to educate yourself financially, to start minding your own business, and to relentlessly, patiently build your asset column until it can entirely sustain your lifestyle.
Our final takeaway borrows a brilliant concept from Buckminster Fuller. True wealth isn't a massive pile of cash, and it's definitely not a high net worth filled with depreciating toys. Wealth is actually a measure of time. If you stopped working today, like right now, how many days forward could you survive on the cash flow from your assets alone? Let that provocative question sink in, and let it be the exact spark that drives you to take immediate action on your own financial education. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.